Welcome back to another segment of Supplement Science. As you guys know, I love to find out more and more about the molecular level of what makes us who we are, and here to talk about DNA testing and how that can impact us in terms of the foods we eat, how we look, and our future health is Dr. Lois Nahirney. Welcome back to the show, or welcome to the show, I should say.
Terrific. Thanks so much, Dave. Pleased to be here.
Now, you have a website, DNApower.com. I've talked to some people that work with you before about DNA testing. A lot of our listeners who are religious know that I had my DNA tested, I think it was a few years ago now, and you actually have my results there. And I want to just get into this a little bit more because I think as the technology becomes more and more, I guess, good and accurate, I think more people are interested about their DNA and how that could impact them in terms of from health perspectives or how they look. So why don't you give us a little background in terms of how you got into the whole DNA field to start with?
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Well, do you know, I was a corporate executive by background, working with a large multi-billion-dollar company. And when I hit my 40s, as many do, I started not to feel so well. I was running into chronic fatigue. I had restless leg syndrome. I was struggling to catch my breath. I didn't have energy for working out, and ended up going to a series of doctors over many years and couldn't find anything wrong. But I felt terrible, and it actually culminated in being admitted to emergency and spending 2 days in the hospital with blood transfusions. Wow. That's how bad my body had gotten. I ended up out in an event, and I ran into the person that you mentioned, Carmen Tachiniak, who is the DNA diva.
Yeah.
And she started in the early years with DNA testing, and she said, Lois, you got to take a look at this. I actually have adopted identical twins, so I've been fascinated in genetics and studied it for years.
Interesting, yeah.
Exactly. And so I said, sure, let's try this, thinking I'd find out about my adopted children. I got my results back, and my results with my DNA data in front of me showed me that I have a genetic weakness related to vitamin Bs. And I had never taken supplements, but I knew when I did do it, when I was traveling or climbing mountains or was being more conscientious about that I felt better and I had my breath back. I ended up using that DNA information, going on to methylated complex vitamin Bs and a whole vitamin regimen, and within 1 month, 4 years of serious health issues had gone away. I had my energy back. Wow. I didn't have the chronic fatigue. I didn't have the breathing problems. And I couldn't believe that that's all it took. And not one doctor had suggested it might be micronutrient deficiency or some sort of food-related issue. And so this became the answer, and I ended up buying the company because I said, if it's this easy to find out, I did. If it's this easy to find out about your body, and I had none of this data to work with, then we need to put this in people's hands.
Right. Especially, like you said, for adopted people who don't know what their parents' health history was or what the genetics of their parents were. Now you don't need them anymore. You can actually get your genetics read, and you can start fresh, so to speak. Now, let me ask you this question. Obviously, I think you were talking about, were you B12 deficient? Because a lot of people don't realize you can have enough B12 in your body, but if it's not being methylated, which is activated essentially, it doesn't do anything.
Exactly. Well, and it's not just about being adopted. It's also for those of us who how much do we truly know data-wise about our bodies, other than blood testing, maybe some urine or hormones, because I know many people in the fitness industry do more of that. But what do you know about your actual blueprint, your lifetime roadmap? And now that's available to us. And just so people know, this isn't what we're talking about, isn't ancestry testing. This is around lifestyle, health, diet, fitness. This is around the stuff that you can know about your body's blueprint and do something about.
It's funny because when I got my DNA test results back and I went over them with Carmen, and we're going to go over them a little bit just to entertain the viewers, I wasn't surprised. Because I'm kind of very intuitive with my body, and I know what works and doesn't work. So it kind of just was confirmation, most of the tests, like, oh, now I understand why I do better doing this rather than that, or now I understand why I have so many problems with this, or it just made sense. It kind of gave me like confirmation that maybe I wasn't going crazy, that my instincts were actually pretty good, and that what the observations I was making about how my body responded to fats, carbs, protein was smart. I don't advocate. It's funny. I don't advocate caffeine usage because I think a lot of people get high blood pressure from it. It raises their anxiety level, their blood pressure, and I have like a mild heart arrhythmia, so like I stay away from caffeine. But I found out on my DNA testing that I actually handled caffeine very well, like 100%. And so when we had my wife and I have just had 3 kids, and they're all young, and you don't sleep much. So I started like sipping on energy drinks to get through the day a little bit, and I was worried about it, but it didn't negatively affect me at all. And that made total sense because according to my DNA, I handle caffeine very well, whereas other people might not. So to me, I like to know, I might not use it every day, my DNA results, but it kind of gives you confirmation about some of the things. Now, the thing that worries me is that sometimes you can get some negative DNA results and it could drive you mentally crazy because now you think you're going to get certain diseases, and that's not the case though. So I want you to explain a little bit about when you're interpreting these DNA results, what exactly it means, and what should people be afraid to get this done, or is this really just a tool to keep you aware of what might happen if you don't take good care of your health?
Now, it's interesting because what we're looking at is the day-to-day genetics that you can do something about. These actually impact, they're epigenetically related. And so the epigenetics being your lifestyle, things like food, diet, exercise, sleep, stress, toxins, and environment. And so the amount of genetics that is directly related to that you'll get the disease is only 5%. The rest of your genetics is your predisposition, and your body will go in the direction that you're programmed, but you have the ability through good lifestyle choices to make sure that your body doesn't turn on the bad genes and keeps working with the good genes, because your body wants to be healthy. It wants to be healthy. Right. And so it's not scary. We don't look at the scary stuff because that won't even come into play if you look after these ones. We're looking at carbohydrates, fats, proteins, gluten, lactose, vitamins, some fitness genes, detoxification and inflammation. These are day-to-day functions. And when you know how your body is programmed through its blueprint, you can work positively to support it and make sure you're not doing things that move you closer to chronic disease or weight gain or other issues.
Now, when you take a look at without going into the minutia of my blood work, because it might be too boring, but looking at my blood work as a whole, my DNA analysis as a whole, what big trends do you see? Like what jumps off the page and says, wow, we got to really watch this, or you're really good at this? What do you see right off the hand?
Well, first of all, a reminder, it's not blood work. Blood work is what you would do if you were getting your blood test done. This is, cheek swab. This is it. This is all it is, just in case people are worried about it. All we do is a little swab inside your cheek. That's it. Yeah. So the things that, for me, jumped off the page for you is you are close on carbohydrates and insulin, where you're not into a big raised red zone. And in our tests, it's red or green. But you're at about 40% red, which means you need to be managing the carbs and insulin and glucose levels in your body. Yeah. And that you're someone who we would say needs to eat on a regular basis to keep your blood sugar more maintained over the course of a day. Yeah. So that is one of the things that would jump out. In addition, you need more protein, but digestible protein to be part of that diet. So your uptake of protein, in order to be building muscles, you need more, not necessarily all meat. It might be plant-based. You need a combination, but those are 2 immediate things. The other one that jumps out in a big way, you're all red on lactose, Dave. Yep. You should not be having dairy, period. That is just inflammation city for you.
It's funny. Now, I'm going to stop you here because you don't know anything about me and all the stuff I talk about on a regular basis. I am so anti-lactose that I actually produce the highest quality whey isolate that has removed the most conceivable lactose you can possibly remove given the technology we have today, just because of how lactose intolerant I know that I am. That's how crazy. I can drink a glass of milk and I might not make it to the toilet. I poop my pants. That's how quickly it goes through me. So that DNA analysis is 100% accurate. It also is very accurate because my blood, I don't really handle carbohydrates that well. I have a fast metabolism, but if I eat too many of them, my blood sugar doesn't do well, and I don't lose weight, efficiently when I was competing. And that's why I really created my ketogenic diet, because I found that I did better on higher fats and and protein and lower carbohydrates. Now that I'm not competing anymore, I eat too many carbohydrates sometimes, and if I eat a couple slices of pizza or something like that, or I go off the edge, so to speak, I don't gain fat because I don't really put fat on, but my blood sugars will go high, and I'll notice that. If I eat less carbs and stick to my protein and fat more regimen, then I definitely see a better glucose control. So that's 100% accurate on who I am.
Well, and that's exactly what I see. You're one of the people who can do a ketogenic diet.
Yeah.
And in fact, you need some of the polyunsaturated, you need the omegas, you need things to support your body. Your body actually needs that and performs better when you have that. Interestingly, though, conversely, Dave, we see people, I've seen people who are top professional trainers in Canada, that's where I am from, who have been on ketogenic diets and their bodies have almost shut down because they were exactly opposite, where they had the weak fat genes and strong carb genes. And when we reversed the diet, suddenly all their health came back. So when we talk about what's the right diet for you, the answer is always, it depends on your genes.
True. And you know what? I've noticed this too. Because I did so well on that type of a diet, I created this performance ketogenic diet, which is higher in protein, lower in fats. It's not that medical ketogenic diet where it's very high in fat and lower in protein. I kind of altered it for bodybuilding purposes, and I've used it successfully on a lot of people. But there are people that I work with, and I've noticed in African American guys, specifically the men, more so than the women, they don't do well on a high-fat diet. They don't lose weight. They usually put muscle on. They do better on slightly, more carbs, less fats. And so there's definitely a genetic, variation there. And once again, everyone's saying, well, how do I know? I mean, no, you can do it by trial and error and figure out. And that's usually what we do as coaches. We figure out what works. But if we probably did a DNA swabbing and found out, we can know for certain before we even start dieting these people what diets would be better for them and which would be worse, right?
Well, why wouldn't you do that? In an age where that data is now available for you, you have it first on your website. You've got Total Power on your website. Anybody who follows you, Dave, can go onto your website, get the DNA test that you do, and can find out what is it that my body uniquely has. Because if you are not eating and exercising according to your DNA, when you hit your 40s and your 50s, those genes that you're counter supporting will now show up in inflammation, weight gain, chronic disease. We're seeing that increase in autoimmune diseases. That's really just because inflammation is coming in our bodies with things that we're not able to process or manage. So why wouldn't you want to eat what you should be?
And the prices have just come down recently because you had contacted me, obviously as the technology improves, the cost of the technology decreases. And so if people go on DavePalumbo.com and they see the DNA test, you'll see the prices you can do your whole panel now for a fraction of what it was before. And I'm sure as the technology increases, I'm sure that price will come down to a point where probably everyone will be able to do it, and it wouldn't even be a factor, cost-wise, I'm assuming.
Everybody can do it now. So on your website, we've got it on a promotion. It's on for $599 US. You're going to get 70 different areas, over 200 genes tested that will help you know all your vitamins and your supplements, where you're the weakest and need the most genetic support, how you should be balancing the carbs, fats, proteins, whether lactose is an issue. You wouldn't believe the athletes we see who go to physio, and then when we show them their lactose genes are bad and pull it out of their diet, suddenly don't have inflammation.
I know, it's crazy because everyone thinks they have to have dairy in their diet. They don't understand that for some people, they just can't handle it. I can't handle it. And if you can't handle it, you can't digest and handle the lactose. Putting it into your body is like poisoning your body.
It's what's it going to do? It's going to turn into inflammation, or it's going to turn into some sort of a toxic
mucus,
builds up in your body, or weight gain.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it's
and
funny,
so
but
even, when
I don't mean to interrupt, but bodybuilders notoriously over the years have just always, by convention, eliminated dairy from the diet, like getting ready for competitions, because I think we just noticed empirically that people looked better on no dairy. And so that was just done. And obviously there's probably some people that can eat dairy because they process it well, but a lot of people, especially as you get to be adulthood, just don't handle dairy well anymore. And if you're holding water from it and you're inflamed from it, obviously you're not going to look good cosmetically. So I think that anecdotally or empirically we noticed that and we eliminated it, but now we know why, because a lot of people don't handle lactose well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll feel it. I mean, you just don't feel well. It affects your gut. It affects your performance. It affects everything. So it's important. Yes.
What else do you see? I mean, what in terms of I don't know if you have the mental health stuff there, because a lot of people today are worried about, like, Alzheimer's and dementia and stuff like that. I know my dad, died. He was 88, and he had probably the last couple of years of his life really bad dementia. So these are things you think about, and you worry about. And I know that's some of the testing was done for that as well.
Mm-hmm. Correct. So there's a couple other things that flag in your report for me, Dave. One is that you have high inflammatory markers. So if you eat inflammatory foods or things that cause inflammation, you will be at a higher risk. Because you've also got your glucose a little bit more sensitive, that could trigger and that could be part of the reason your father had diabetes. So you need to eat a clean, important, healthy diet, exercise, and you're going to stay healthy and live to 100 plus.
Yeah, my dad didn't have diabetes, not that I know of, but he definitely had dementia. He didn't have Alzheimer's, but he got dementia and he lost his memory as he got into his late 80s. Now, like I said, I don't know if that's programmed in or if you can avoid that. Now, I will tell you one thing. I eat a very anti-inflammatory diet. Okay, my C-reactive protein levels, which is a measure of the inflammatory markers, are always under 1. They're very low. But I attribute that to my diet. I don't know maybe if I ate junk, I might have high inflammatory markers.
Based on your genetics, if you ate junk, you would have high CRP markers.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. But they're calling Alzheimer's diabetes 3 because it has to do with our diet and what we've been eating, and that actually affects the neurons in the brain. And so there are genes that link towards Alzheimer's and concussion. You have good genes. You aren't genetically predisposed, so you're at a lower risk of Alzheimer's. But anybody can get dementia and Alzheimer's based on poor eating habits.
Right.
Anybody can get it.
So just poor blood sugar control is what you're saying. Yeah, because you're right. They're calling it type 3 diabetes now. Poor blood sugar control can lead to accumulation of glucose, obviously, in the neurons and in the blood vessels of the brain, which obviously can cause, problems, obviously, moving forward.
Absolutely. So yours are pretty good. So that's not too bad. You have a little bit slightly higher on cortisol and on emotional eating, but you're fine on depression, concussion, Alzheimer's. Interesting, when I got these results back, I was worried about Alzheimer's for me, and I was fine. My kids score very red, and I'd noticed when they had concussions, they were struggling to recover.
Wow. And
which makes them more prone to Alzheimer's. So as teens, we now have them on fish oils to help support the brain function. Sure. And I took them out of contact sports where they were at higher risk.
Interesting.
So,
right.
Yeah. So your results in general look pretty good in this area. I did mention we look at other areas like detoxification, hormones, inflammation, and methylation. Methylation is the engine of the cell. And when I look at that, you have some high inflammatory markers. So that's great. You're eating an anti-inflammatory diet. That'll keep you healthy. But this methylation one shows that you need vitamin Bs, especially as you age, in a methylated form to keep your cell mitochondria working at the power that they should.
And it's funny because before I even found this out, I have a product from my speciesnutrition.com website that is called V-Mineralize. And in V-Mineralize, when I was formulating the product, and I didn't even remember that I did this, I was researching, chelated minerals because I knew chelation was a better way to, absorb minerals. And I knew that I had read an article on methylation and how methylated vitamins are better. And I actually have a methylated form of vitamin B12 in V-Mineralize already. So I was taking it all along, didn't even realize it. So kudos to myself.
You're totally ahead of your time. So women from 45 on, almost all should be on a B complex methylated B vitamin. If you're under high stress, you should be under, because you burn the Bs. You need to do that. If you're bodybuilding, you need more of the Bs in order to support the stress you're putting your body under. And then when you genetically discover, for me, I discovered that that's a big weakness for me. If I don't supplement with vitamin Bs every single day, I get short of breath. I start having restless leg syndrome. I get tired. It is my drug that I have to take every day to stay healthy.
Here's a question though, Lois. Can you take vitamin B let's say someone's taking vitamin B12, okay? And their B12 levels are very high. Because I noticed a lot of bodybuilders, because I read blood work all day long. I have these bodybuilders send me their blood work, I read them all day long. I see high B12 levels on most bodybuilders' blood work because a lot of people are taking B12. How could you tell if that B12 though is being methylated properly? Is the only way to do it through DNA testing?
Well, maybe
Okay.
is the answer.
Is there a methyl B12 test?
No. So the problem with B12 is that you need your B6s and your B9s. So I see a lot of people who have B12s aren't the problem, B6s and B9s, and that convert the 12 and help it to methylate and convert are the problem. And so what we do in our DNA test is we actually look at 6 and 9 as well, and you don't always get that in blood work. There's US panels, I think you've got some better information available, but I see people as well who end up have strong B12 but poor 6 and 9.
Right.
And or it's just not converting. So you need to find a way to get that B12 to convert properly.
Right. You need to make sure it's methylated. I'm wondering if they have a methylated B12 test now. I have to find out because I read blood work from these European countries, and I got news for you. The European blood work is way more, I guess you could say, advanced. They have way more. They test vitamin deficiency. They test omega-3 levels. They go a lot more into detail on a regular basis. I know you could probably get them ordered here in the U.S., but most doctors don't routinely look at those type of more esoteric vitamins and stuff like that.
Correct. So you can still be anemic and have a B problem, even if you have high B12 levels. The question is your body absorbing and utilizing it? And so that's what you have to be able to do is to get that process to work, which is why I usually, in the results, we can tell if your problem's is 6, 9, or 12.
Gotcha.
And then you need to do more support in the area where it's weakest.
And I always tell people to take an array of the whole B complex really just to kind of play it safe because you never know what you're going to be deficient in. And they're water-soluble vitamins anyway, so you're just going to pee them out if you're not using them.
Well, you know what? People don't die from taking too many vitamins. No. They die from taking pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
And so I would think if you're going to make a mistake, most people now, the thing that's scary, Dave, is that our food supplies have become so weak in North America, it's actually hard to get the nutrition we need now out of our foods.
You're right.
Our soils are weak. Our foods are weak. They're genetically modified. There's been so many changes. Yeah. And that puts our bodies into a place where we are either dealing with nutritional deficiency or toxicity from other chemicals and things in our environment.
That's what I worry about. I eat a lot of fruit and vegetable. But I'm almost afraid because I'm afraid I'm getting toxic from all this pesticides they spray on the stuff.
You know what? We are going to have to be moving to organic, locally grown foods. We have to change our food supply and how we're eating because our bodies, kids are being born now with 268 different chemicals in their bodies just because of what's being passed through in the blood-brain barrier from the parent.
Yeah, that's pretty insane when you think about it. When I buy grapes in the supermarket, I got a price when I go to Sam's Club. And these are the biggest grapes I've ever seen. They're the best tasting grapes. Yeah. There's such a layer of pesticides on them. I can actually, when I wipe it on my shirt, it actually leaves almost like a chalk-like streak. That's how much they spray these vegetables so that the insects don't eat them. And who knows what gets into these grapes and stuff
it's really affecting our health. So to anybody who's watching, you could make no better investment than to be eating the very best, highest quality food that you can for your body. And where you can get it organic or locally grown, try to do that. Look up Dirty Dozen, which are the fruits and vegetables that have the most chemicals on them, which are your clean 15, the ones that you don't have to invest in the in organic because they've got peels on them, so that protects them.
Give us a little idea of methylation in terms of folic acid as well, because we all hear about folic acid in terms of women needing it when they're pregnant to prevent neural tube defects in the babies, but on a regular basis, if we're not methylating folic acid either, then that could be an issue as well.
Oh, so Dave, that is my issue. I know this issue intimately. The reason I'm an adoptive mother is because we weren't able to get pregnant.
Oh, wow.
And my issue is actually folic acid. That's what I can't manage that. I can't convert that to support my 12s. So I was getting big 12 shots. It wasn't doing anything. I needed high quantities. So I take very high levels of vitamins and supplements now based on everything that I've learned.
Sure.
And I specifically take extra folic acid. It is not just for pregnant women. This is for all kinds of people. If anybody who's feeling fatigue and B12 hasn't worked, definitely try folic acid. It's an alternative. I also have a B6 issue. So I take 6s and 9s, and I have to actually downregulate my B12 because my body has quite a bit of it. It's just not converting.
Right.
So absolutely. And some of this you can do by trial and error, but of course we go for $599. Why wouldn't you go and find out what your genetic weaknesses are? Because then you know where you should probably be supplementing, particularly as you get to be age 40 and over.
And let's look at my hormone panel. Do you have that in front of you too?
Yeah, let me just pop it up here. Okay, so
what sticks out at you on that my hormone panel?
So how efficiently your body regulates some of the steroids, estrogen, and androgens it's more red. So that means that you need to be careful in terms of, let me just get this up here. You need to just be careful about how you manage hormones in your body. So you're somebody who we would say you need hormone-free meat or dairy. You need produce free of herbicides and pesticides because those won't clear out of your body as easily as they should. You need to watch plastics so that you're not getting toxins in because you will tend to have a higher hormone reaction because of the way that your body clears in that area. Same with household chemicals. So you need to have a pretty clean, non-toxic, non-hormone-free food supply in order to make sure that your body stays healthy in that area.
Right, and those hormones also, are those my endogenous hormones also how I handle those, or is that just environmental?
No, that would also be your own. So remember, your body will try and manage its hormones the way it should. It's when you put the environmental factors on it that it'll tend to get out of balance. So your body's going to have a tendency to not synthesize those as well as it should. So you just need to your lifestyle though counterbalances that.
Right. Yeah, I stopped using plastic in the microwave. That was my that was my compromise on all of that. Because I believe when you heat up plastic, that's when the problem occurs. Also,
absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in not putting any kind of oils into plastic containers because I sell a macadamia nut oil, but I sell it in glass bottles because I believe that the oils that are produced and stored in plastic bottles will leach the plastics into the oil itself. There's a lot of research on that.
That's very smart, Dave, which is why people should be getting that product from you because you're exactly right in how you're doing that.
Yeah, because water doesn't really leach plastics because it's oil soluble. So you can drink a bottle of water in a plastic bottle. It's not going to have you're not going to have a problem with it. But when you put anything that's fat soluble into plastics, I think that's a recipe. And what's even worse is heating that up. It's almost like you're doing a science experiment, of extracting the plastics into the oil.
Well, the thing is, we just have so many toxins in our environment right now. You've got to pull it out everywhere you possibly can. And using glass is an easy way to do it.
Right. Well, Lois, this was a very interesting conversation. I think I got a nice taste of what DNA could tell you about yourself and, the trends that it will, I guess, enlighten you to, and then how you can go about combating these things. And obviously, once you do this DNA testing, your company will kind of educate, right? Won't they have like a sit down with you and kind of explain the results to you?
Absolutely. So if people buy it off of your website, it not only comes with, you get over 200 pages of information, but we've set it up because I'm a business person by background. You get green and red. It's pretty simple. Where you're red, that's where you need to focus, and we give you an action plan on it. But we also set you up for a personal nutritional consult, and Carmen Ticiniak, who's the DNA diva that you've worked with, she's offered to do those consults. If she's not available, we have other fantastic nutritionists to work with, people who are have their fitness nutritionists in addition to others. So we start with what are your concerns, and then we walk through your DNA and how you can now live according to your genetics to have a healthier and longer life.
There you go, guys. DavePalumbo.com. Buy your DNA testing kit. You get it in the mail. You swab your cheek. You put it in the vial. You send it off to them. You get your results. They'll go over the results with you. And now at least you know what's going on. I know I've been putting it off for like a year. I told you I was going to do it, but I'm going to swab all my kids. I'm having all my kids' DNA tested. So I know as they get older what I have to look out for, like you said, with your children, and what I can actually push them towards because they're good at that. And I think that's going to help me make the right choices for them, not only nutritionally, but maybe even athletically, and what sports I put them in, and what intellectual activities I put them in, because I'll know where they're going to excel and where they might need help. And obviously being a person who's of interest with diet and supplements, that I think I could start early on in their life so that they don't have to worry about deficiencies later on.
You've got it exactly right, Dave.
All right. Well, thanks, Lois, for coming on. And guys, hopefully this was enlightening. If any new testing comes around or any new technology comes around, we will have Dr. Lois back and we will talk about it and let you guys know. For now we're out of time. I'm Dave Palumbo with another Supplement Science review. We'll see you next time.